What's up everyone, Steven here with Neural DSP, and today I want to talk about DI boxes. Over the last few videos, I've been getting a lot of questions about DI boxes. What do they do, and are they necessary for my setup? So I want to take a couple of minutes, explain how they work, how they can help your recordings, and whether you actually need them or not. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Number one, interference. If you're recording in an environment that has a lot of radio frequency interference or an old building with bad electricity, then this might be interfering with your signal. So what a DI box does to combat this is it takes your high impedance, unbalanced signal down to a low impedance, balanced signal. So then it sends the signal through a microphone cable, which is far less susceptible to interference than instrument cables. The last interference problem a DI box fixes is ground loops. Should there be a problem in the electricity in your building, a DI box will stop a ground loop from starting and generating a 50 or 60 cycle hum. Note, however, that if you have noisy pickups, the DI box will not fix this issue because microphone cables only keep additional interference from getting to the signal as it's passing through. Aside from breaking ground loops, the DI box does not take any noise out of the signal that is being fed directly from the source. Number two, impedance. Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit into the weeds with this one, but I feel like this is an important point to mention. So in the last point, I briefly mentioned high impedance and low impedance, and what I want to take a second to do is explain what it is, but more importantly, what you should be looking for in the specs of your interfaces in DI boxes. So what is electrical impedance? Electrical impedance is the measure of the opposition that a circuit presents a current when voltage is applied. For the best sound quality and voltage transfer, the input impedance of the connector you're plugging into, like your interface, should be roughly 7 to 10 times higher than the output impedance of your source, like your guitar. The output impedance of a typical electric guitar pickup is roughly 20 to 40,000 ohms. So the ideal input impedance of your guitar amp, your DI box, or your interface should be roughly 7 to 10 times that, which is about 280,000 to 400,000 ohms. So basically, if you connect a low impedance source with a high impedance load, you won't have any distortion or frequency response change because of this connection. But on the other hand, if you have a high impedance source going to a low impedance load, you will have distortion or frequency response change. Now, this is something to check on your manufacturing specs on your interface. Nowadays, most interfaces have instrument level inputs as well as mic level inputs. So when we look at something as simple as the Scarlett 2i2, the input impedance of the instrument input, the 1/4 inch jack, is rated at 1.5 million ohms, so that more than takes care of this issue. But say that your interface or your mixer only has mic level inputs, you will have to get a DI to make that transition. Number three, reamping. Now this point actually ties into my first point. When you're reamping, you want the cleanest sound possible to send to your amplifier. So if you have a ground loop issue and you have a 50 or 60 cycle hum in your signal, you don't want to send that to your amp while you're recording. So a possible scenario is recording in your own environment and then taking your DIs to a professional studio with clean electricity to reamp later on. Number four, editing live amp recordings. When you record with live amps, it can be very, very difficult to edit just the live amp tracks. The reason being is that the transient and high distortion tones is almost visually indistinguishable. So I shot a video a few weeks ago of me recording the Archetype Plini through my own cabinet. If you take a look at the recorded tracks, I would have had to spend a lot of time just by ear editing if I only had the recorded amp tracks available. However, I knew that I would need to edit the takes afterwards, so I recorded the DI along with it so I'd have a visual reference. Whew, okay, so that was a lot of information, and I really appreciate you guys sticking out with me. So now comes the big question. Is a DI box necessary for my setup? If you're recording at home, you're making demos, you're making music you're only going to personally distribute, you're not planning on reamping later, so you're just playing in the box, probably not. Ultimately, I'm finding more and more people are just plugging directly into their input on their interface, and that gets great quality tones. So if you don't need the reamping later on, then don't worry about it. However, if you're looking to reamp later on, you're looking to break a ground loop, or you're looking to send this cleanest signal possible to a mix engineer so that way they can reamp later on, then yes, it's worth the investment. So hopefully this explains why you would possibly want to invest in DI box or not, and I really appreciate you taking a look at the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications, comment down below, and let me know what you think of this content if you want to see more like it. As always, I'll see you in the next video.